everyone. Welcome to another segment of Premium Law Access. My name is Uche Nwaneri. I'm an attorney and I am a co-founder of Premium Law Firm. Our core practice areas are immigration law and business law. Now, the topic for today is, do you want to come to America? I bet you do. And I'm going to tell you how in this segment. Now, before we start, you're going to hear me say a lot of times, there's some terminologies I would like to share with you. And you're going to hear me say this over and over again. So I think it just makes sense for me to let you know what they mean so that you can follow along. The first terminology is visa. What is a visa? So visa is an endorsement. It's usually stamped by a consular officer on your passport, and it is just a permission for you to enter the United States. It is usually granted in the US Embassy in your home country. The other terminology I will be talking to you about will be, you're going to hear me talk about immigrant and non-immigrant. And I'm sure you'll be wondering, what does that mean? Well, the only difference is an immigrant visa means you're planning to live in America permanently. A non-immigrant visa means you're only coming here for a temporary stay. That's the major difference. Now, coming to America, why do you want to come to America? You should have a reason for wanting to come to America. Everybody has a reason for wanting to come to America. So as well, if you want to visit any other country, you should have a reason for wanting to come to America. And that is what brings me to why I'll be discussing the various visa types. I'm going to discuss 7 major visa types. The first visa type, the 7 visa types will be the tourist visa, the work visa, the family immigrant visa, the diversity visa lottery visa, the investment visa, and asylum. So I'm going to give you the high points of the differences between among all these visa types. So let's get into it. A visitor's visa, just as the name suggests, it's also called a tourist visa. And like I told you earlier, what kind of visa is this? This is a non-immigrant visa. Non-immigrant means you're only coming here for a temporary stay. So it means at the end of your stay, you still plan to go back to your home country. So with a visitor's visa, you can have a reason for coming into the United States. Those reasons could be you're coming in to visit friends, or you're coming to visit with family, you're coming for medical reasons, you're coming for a conference. It could be one of those reasons. Or you're just coming merely, you don't know anybody and you're just coming for a vacation. Yes, that's still allowed, but you still have to disclose why you're coming. And that's why it makes it fall into either a tourist visa or a business visa, or it can fall into both categories. So now, these visas, how do you obtain a visa? A visa is usually obtained at the embassy. You have to attend an interview. If you're between the ages of 14 and 79, you have to appear before a consular officer. The consular officer is the one to grant that visa, and it is a discretionary visa, meaning the officer will be able, after listening to you, after reviewing your documentation, he has the discretion whether or not to issue a visa. So that visa, if you get lucky, the consular officer can now stamp the visa in your passport. Now, when you receive this visa, wonderful, that's good news, but it is not a guarantee for entering into the country. It's just a permission for you to enter into the country. So at the time you have decided to travel and you enter the United States, you're going to be subjected to another screening at the border. That's at the airport, which is called you'll be screened by the Customs and Border Patrol. These are officers of immigration. They belong to the Department of Homeland Services. So you're going to be screened again. And this is when they're going to look into asking you again, why are you coming here? So I'm going to give you an example. If your visa may give you opportunities for multiple entries. You can give you a visa for 3 years. So example, if you're given a visa from 2020 to 2023, it does not mean that you can enter the country and stay from 2020 to 2023. So at the airport, when you're being screened by the Customs and Border Patrol officers, they will now issue you what is called an I-94. It's an arrival and departure record. And what that does is it grants you permission to be admitted into the country. So at this time, even though you have a visa for 3 years, the Customs and Border Patrol officers may grant you only 6 months. So what that means is they are granting you 6 months just for that visit, that particular visit. So you're not allowed to stay here for 3 years. The 6 months you're allowed to stay now supersedes the 3 months visa. So you can now stay for 6 months. At the end of 6 months, you're expected to return to your country. Now you can go back, and you decide to come back maybe within a few months. Yes, you're allowed to. You don't need to go back to the embassy. That's just what it means for that past 3 years, for the next 3 years. But for the visit, you have to stay just within that 6 months. After the 6 months, you really have to go back to your country. If you don't return to your country, then you become out of status. And what that means is you may be subject to deportation proceedings, or you may not even be granted opportunities for future visas. You don't want that to happen to you, right? So that's it for a visitor's visa. The next I'm going to discuss will be the family immigrant visa. Wow, that is the largest group that actually comes into the United States. And as the name suggests, family. Family really means your spouse and your children and your siblings, your parents. These are all families. Now, what type of visa is this? This is an immigrant visa. So that means you're coming here to stay permanently in the United States. So when I talk about family, family includes your spouse, your fiancé, your parents, your children under 21, your children over 21, your children who are married, your children who are unmarried. It also includes your biological children. It also includes your stepchildren, as well as your adopted children. So with the family immigrant visa, you can apply for it either in your home country, and that's what we call consular processing, or you can apply for it if you are in the United States, and that is what we call adjustment of status. So if you are applying for a family immigrant visa, a family member has to apply for you, and that family member has to be a United States citizen or a lawful permanent resident. They are the only ones who can apply. And that is why I guess it is the largest group of people who come in, because we have families, family, your wife, your children, and it's all exciting for everyone to be together. So that's the family visa. Now, for these visas, there is a numerical limit. And for the family visas, we have approximately 480,000 is issued in every fiscal year. So when we talk about family, we now distinguish between family members who are the immediate family members and which category does not fall within the immediate family member category. The immediate family members are your spouse and your children under 21. Those ones really are not subjected to the numerical limits. It means that visas are available to these people all the time. So that's the distinction between the various categories under the family immigrant visa. The next I'm going to discuss will be the work visa. Now, what type of visa is this? This is a non-immigrant visa, so it's only for a temporary purpose. I'm sure you'll be wondering, wow, I'm coming here to work. Why would it be for a temporary purpose? Yes, it is a non-immigrant visa, so it's only for a temporary purpose. And who applies for it? It's really your employer. Your employer is the one who will be applying for, petitioning for you, and he is doing that because you have specialized skills which he could not find in the United States. So an employer will file for you, and then you are allowed to come in to the country with your family and your children under 21. So because it's temporary in nature, you expected after that employment, as long for the duration of the employment, that you're expected to return to your country unless you adjust to another status. The next visa category I'll be discussing will be the student visa. Now, student visa, as the name suggests, is for students. So people would want to come here to further their studies. Yes, the American legal system is really good. And we're going to ask, what type of visa will this be? This is a non-immigrant visa. So it is a temporary visa. It is only for a limited time, and it is only applicable as long as you are in school. If you're not in school, then it's time for you to go back to your country. If you finished your studies, it is time for you to go into your country, unless you are adjusting to another visa status. So the student visa falls into two groups. You have the academic students, and then you have the non-academic program, and this is for vocational studies. So the student visas, it's really valid as long as you're in school. And while you're in the student visa status, you're required to maintain your status as long as you're in the United States. So you can come in planning to go to a bachelor, go to a university or a university, and then after university, you want to go in for your master's degree. From your master's degree, you want to do your doctorate. Yes, you're allowed, because the duration is for duration of your studies. As long as you're in school, you can remain in the country. But once you're done with school, you have to return. Now I'm excited about this next one. I tell you, I'm really, really excited about this one. It is called the Diversity Visa Lottery. The Diversity Visa Lottery is the most exciting part of all these visa categories. And I'll tell you why. To start with, it is an immigrant visa. Once you get that, it's going to be an immigrant visa, meaning that you're going to stay here permanently. And then you can come in with your family. Now, the question is, how do you get this kind? How do you obtain this kind of visa? Well, as the name suggests, is a lottery, meaning it is pure out of luck. It's based on random selection. And guess what, again? It is open worldwide, whether you're in the United States or outside the United States. But there's a catch here. Even though it's open to everyone, the purpose of the Diversity Visa Lottery is for people who have low immigration numbers in the United States. That's why the government is giving away these visas to those countries. So if you're lucky to be one of those countries, be in one of those countries, or a citizen of one of those countries, then that's the number one luck. That's the number one eligibility. These are divided into different countries. The countries are divided into different geographical areas, and I'll read those to you. One is Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, Oceania, Central America, and the Caribbean days. How many visas are available? There are 55,000 visas available in every fiscal year. So here's the catch. One is you have to be an eligible country. You have to be a citizen of an eligible country. And when they mean citizen, you have to be born in that country. You have to be a native. You really don't have to be a resident or someone who acquired citizenship in another country. You have to be born there, okay, to be eligible. Then you have to show proof that you're actually a native of that country. So 2, the second requirement is you need to have a high school education. High school, here you have 12 years in the United States. So either the 12 years or its equivalent qualifies you. In Africa, it's going to be your primary school as well as your secondary school. So that will qualify you. If you don't have that, then the other option will be 2 years of work experience in the last 5 years. Those are the only 3 categories. 1, you have to be a native of that country, of a qualifying country. 2, you have to have the high school education. Or 3, you have to have work experience. If you have all 3, go on and apply. If you get lucky and are selected, then the second hurdle will be, will you be counted among the 55,000 of that fiscal year? The best news I have for you now is, as we speak, this visa is actually ongoing. So the entry for 2022 visa lottery opened on October 7, 2020, and it's going to end on November 10, 2020. So go on and apply, go and apply. Go to the website and then see if your country qualifies. And then we can also help you if you have questions, okay? The next visa I will be discussing will be the investor's visa. Investor's visa, again, is a permanent visa, meaning you can come here to live in the country. Now, there's a monetary attachment to this. You're investing because you want to invest in the United States economy, and that investment is going to benefit the United States economy. So if you're coming and saying, oh, I want to open my business, the only requirement is that whatever you're trying to set up has to have the potential of creating jobs for at least 10 US citizens or lawful permanent residents. So the monetary requirements will be, if you're coming to set up any kind of business, will be $1.8 million. Now, if you are saying, you know what, I don't want anything to do with the business, I just want a green card for me and my family, and that's all. I don't want to be involved in managing any business. There is another option, and that option will be investing through regional centers. Regional centers have so many projects that will be of interest to you. So you can look at those projects and say, okay, yes, I want to invest in this. You don't really have to do anything, and you really don't even have to leave where the project is situated. The limit for that is $900,000. That's what you need to invest in the United States. So that's another kind of visa. And with this, you're able to bring in your family and your children under 21 years. The next visa I will be discussing, and that will be the last and the least favored and the least granted. And that is the asylum. It's not a visa, it's a humanitarian relief. Now, before I get into that, I am going to tell you what the distinction is. I'm sure you'll be hearing asylum, refugee. Yes, there's a subtle difference between both. Asylum really means you're escaping your country. You're fleeing from your country because there is persecution. And that's why you're coming to America. So if you're fleeing and coming to America, you should also have a reason. There are 5 reasons why you should be fleeing, and which America recognizes. One is you may be fleeing because of your race. You're fleeing because you're being tortured because of your race, you're being tortured because of your nationality, you're being tortured because you belong to a particular religion, you're being tortured because you belong to a particular social group, or because you have a political opinion. It has to fall into one of these 5 groups, one or more of these 5 groups. So what happens? With asylee, it means you are applying at the port of entry or when you are already in the United States. But with the refugees means you are applying, you're fleeing from your country, but you're applying outside the United States. That is really the difference. But both are really fleeing from persecution. So here in the United States, it's the least granted, especially in recent times. And there are 2 types of asylum. So the asylum is, you have the affirmative asylum and the defensive asylum. Affirmative asylum is, hey, you come to the United States, you report at the border, and then you quickly tell the border patrol that you want to apply for asylum. So you went on your own volition. The asylum patrol will now screen you for credible fear, for reasonable fear, to make sure that, hey, do you really have reasonable fear from fleeing from your country? If he makes that determination to say, oh, yes, there is indeed reasonable fear, doesn't mean he's going to grant you asylum. He will now refer you to the immigration court where you will formally apply for asylum. But for the defense, in terms of the defensive asylum means you're already in the country and then you have been put in removal proceedings. Then you're now asked for any relief. Do you have any relief? You can now fall back on asylum. That is really the difference. So I will give you the statistics of asylum. Asylum has changed over the years because there are new programs, like there's something called the Migrant Protection Protocols. This program is where asylum seekers, you're not applying from Mexico, you're not applying from the United States. You're required to go to Mexico to apply for asylum. And then you wait there for your immigration court hearing. On the date of your hearing, you come in and then you leave. That is a new procedure. It didn't used to be the case. There's also another procedure called the Safe Third Country Agreement. So this is where they have an asylum agreement with Guatemala, and these are all new. But again, with the coronavirus, the CDC has issued an order suspending those who have been in coronavirus impacted areas. So if you are coming from a country that has been impacted by coronavirus, even if you're fleeing from persecution, you will not be granted entry into the United States. So a lot of people are fleeing from persecution, and there's a huge backlog in the United States. So 10 countries, when you talk of asylum, 10 countries are really there. I'll give you the 10 top countries that really apply for asylum. And I'm not saying that they're all granted, but these are the 10 countries that asylum applicants actually come from. There are China, Venezuela, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Egypt, Mexico, India, Russia, Syria, Pakistan, and all other countries. So in terms of statistics, in 2018, 25,439 people were granted affirmative asylum. Remember, affirmative asylum, the one you apply on your own. You're not in immigration proceedings. 13,248 people were granted defensive asylum. That is those who were subjected to immigration proceedings. The refugee, when you're talking about refugees, those are people applying for this, fleeing from persecution, but are applying from outside their country. Now, in recent times, just in this month, the number was decreased by 3,000. It used to be 18,000, but now it's only 15,000 that will be allowed to be admitted into the United States as refugees. This is way, way lower than it used to be in the past. So that brings me to the end of all the visa types. Again, the tourist visa, the family immigrant visa, the work visa, the student visa, the investment visa, the diversity lottery visa, my favorite one, the investment visa, as well as asylum. Now, you can always look at your circumstance to know where you fall. You may qualify for more than one of those, but it's always good to ask questions if you need advice on which visa area you qualify for. Okay. Now, I always would like to end my segments with a practical tip. Right. And here's what I'm talking about. We are in the United States. United States is a very organized society. And in Africa, we are not this organized. And what I mean in terms of documentation. So when we're talking about documentation, you'll see that it's always good for you to have control of your documentation. So whatever document you're filling out, whether for school, for work, or anything in the hospital, you always ask, how do you want to be contacted? Sometimes you can state you want to be contacted by telephone, by text messages, by email, or by mails. And trust me, you're going to receive mails every day. So don't let those mails pile up. They may land you in trouble. Try and open your mails. Open your mails. Open your mails. Read your text messages. Read your emails. You might miss out some important deadlines. You might miss out some important facts, which might get you into trouble, and it might be too late. So please, 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 as a practical tip, it may seem so easy. Yes, tons of mails every day. So try and sort out as you're getting to the mailbox, sort out the junk mails, get the right mails, and then open them, not just collecting them. Open them, see what it's all about. If there's a deadline, write the date on the envelope. Put it in a special place where you stack all your mails so that you go through them. Don't miss deadlines. You don't want to get into trouble in the United States. Okay, so that's the practical tip for today and for this week. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. So if you have questions, contact us at the number below, and that's 713-730-2900. And you can visit our website at www.premlaw.net. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.